Greetings everyone. Welcome to Prog Monster. My name is Murph. I am the host of this show, a show dedicated to progressive rock and other forms of rock music. So we're back here on the Sunday night to do the Great Album Challenge, which is a show we do every second week. Alternates with Ben's Album Challenge, which takes place was last week. So this week we're doing the Great Album Challenge. So what this is my subscriber and friend Ben, he chooses 10 albums from a select year. Could be the same genre, could be different genre, could be multiple genres, whatever he wants to do, and choose whatever albums he wants, and then I basically rate those albums according to my own preference. In this case, he's given us the year 1967, which was a good year, somewhat of an establishedly well-known year because of the Beatles putting out their seminal Sgt. Pepper's album and Jimi Hendrix coming on the scene that year as well. So he's given me 10 albums, most of which I have heard before or listened to before. I think, if I'm not mistaken, there are there's about half of them I've only listened to either once or a couple times, and so they're not going to come as high just because some of these other albums have been around for hundreds of times. Okay, so we're going to start. Normally what I do is I just rank them from the least favorite of mine to the most favorites. In this case, there's a couple that are not really well liked by me, and they're going to go at the bottom. And then I'll just reiterate them all at the end too, just in case you didn't catch it completely. So I hope you will enjoy this video. It was kind of fun to do. Some of the albums were tough to separate, but for the most part was pretty straightforward, not too hard to rate. Sorry. Oh, it's getting to be a long day today. So anyways, the first album we're going to do is by the Animals. It's called Winds of Change. I listened to this whole album. It's very kind of psychedelic, of course, because it's the Animals, as most of this stuff we will be doing today is quite psychedelic. Lots of kind of bluesy elements to their music as well. I've never been a huge fan of Eric Burdon's voice, and I really have never paid much attention to the Animals, and having listened to this album today, I can tell you I know why I haven't, because I just really don't warm up to it very well. It was, to me, this and the next album were easily the two least favorites of the albums. I actually didn't like either of the albums. This one I liked a little bit less than the next one, the number 9 album, but suffice to say, the Animals' Winds of Change to me was the worst album that he gave me to rate today. The next album up was by a band called Love, and the album is called Forever Change. Not much better than the Animals. I did like some of the kind of acoustic, quiet, almost pastoral sounds to their music. I didn't totally hate. There was a couple tunes on it I didn't mind, but for the most part I just found the album uninteresting and uninventive, but more interesting and more inventive than the Animals album, so it comes in at number 9. Number 8, this was the first album that I actually liked of the 10. The Velvet Underground's and Nice doing a studio album together was pretty good. It was pretty good. It was psychedelic, of course. Very interesting sounds. A little bit different than anything I can imagine experiencing. I can't really think of anything to compare it to, other than it was a nice album. It's definitely an album I'll be looking for. If I can find it for a decent price, I would probably get it. So it's going to come in at number 8. Number 7, the Rolling Stones, His Satanic Majesty's Request. To me, this is an attempt by the Stones to be psychedelic. I think they played a little bit off the Beatles' Sgt. Pepper album. They even had the album cover was not totally dissimilar from that, and the music was very psychedelic, a little more psychedelic actually than the Beatles. And it's not that I don't like this album. I do like it. I just think it's one of those albums you got to listen to it for a bit to acquire a taste for it. There's about 4 or 5 of the tracks on here that I actually didn't mind and felt that if given time they would grow on me. But on the whole, it just didn't have enough time in, and that's part of the reason why it's coming in at number 7. So the next 6 I do have prop for, which might surprise some people, but I do have props for them all. Number 6, this is going to be a little bit of a surprise. Most people would figure this is going to be my favorite, but it's the newer of his 3 albums for me. Like, I've only recently got this album. Yes, it has some classic Hendrix stuff on here, but there's just a little bit, I found there's a little bit of stuff in here hard to penetrate. And so we're talking, of course, Jimi Hendrix, Are You Experienced, number 6. Of course, other Deep Purple, Manic Depressive, Hey Joe, The Wind Cries Mary, what else? Foxy Lady, Are You Experienced, all great tunes, and Stone Free, of course. Some of this other stuff, I'm not as, Red House 2, I'm not as enamored with. It, to me, I guess the reason it's coming in at 6, and it could easily be higher, is because I haven't listened to it as much as the other Hendrix stuff, and therefore to me it's weakest of the 3, but definitely an album that I think can grow on me. Come back in a year or so, this might be the best of these albums here. Anyways, Jimi Hendrix, Are You Experienced? The next album up is from The Doors. I watched an episode on another channel last night, and a couple of the people really trashed The Doors badly. And you know, given if this had been a couple of years ago, I would have done the same, because I detested these guys. I didn't think they were any good. That keyboard sounded too Bon Teppy-ish. I didn't really like it at all, and I would have not ranked them at all. I wouldn't have liked them at all. But I've grown to like them. I got the entire catalog at a yard sale for like $2. $5 for all the discs, so it probably worked out to about 2. This was the only one I had to go out and actually buy separately because it wasn't in this set. But I do like it. It's different. The video is quite funny as well. So this is Strange Days by The Doors. Or Strange Ways? Strange Ways. Strange Ways or Strange Days? Which one? Oh, Strange Days. I don't know why I have Strange Ways written down. Maybe I've been listening to too much Kiss. Anyways, good album. Lots of strong tracks on here. Your Lost Little Girl. I always liked that tune. Where is it? People Are Strange. Another song I really like. I Can See Your Face. Another song. Overall, I found this album very kind of psychedelic and appealing to listen to. I'm still fairly new to it. It probably could have gone below Are You Experienced, but for today I just found it a little bit more interesting, so I chose to put it in the 5th spot. Next album up, surprise. I liked this album when I'd never heard it before, and Ben gave it to me, and I listened to it online. I liked it so much I went out and bought it. This is the Rolling Stones. The album is called Between the Buttons. It's there's a lot of acoustic guitar on here, and I think Brian Jones, and I'm assuming he's the guitar player on all the acoustic stuff. He's a better guitar player than I had realized. Listening to this, he really has a range that's a little bit underrated, I think. Yeah, he had lots of issues and stuff, and we all know what happened to him in the end, but I just think that he's a bit of a standout on this album. The music is very kind of not so much a Stones type. It's not as rocky. It's more pastoral. It's more folky. It's got some psychedelic elements to it as well. A lot of the stuff I like. Miss Amanda Jones, a great tune, I think. Who's Been Sleeping Here? She Smiled Sweetly. Ruby Tuesday, of course. We all know that one. Let's Spend the Night Together. Yeah, it's got some classic Stones on here, but it has a lot of that stuff that's deeper cut, was the stuff that interested me. So for me today, the Stones, Between the Buttons comes in at number 4. Oh, sorry, almost lost it there. So the next 3 albums, easily the best 3, I think. Mostly because I've had so much more time with them, so much more chance to penetrate them, and so much longer of a period. All through, well, 2 of the albums I've been listening to for off and on for 25, 30 years. The other one, all the stuff I know, but I still love the album. I think it's become one of my favorites for recent years. Number 3 is going to be Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. This is a great album. The title track, of course, which Jimmy also played the opening night. A Little Help from My Friends was my favorite Beatles song when I was a kid. Lucy in the Sky, really great track. Where is it? When I'm 64, I always kind of thought that was a pretty cool track too. The reprise of Sgt. Pepper's is also on here. Day in the Life, of course, was always been and still is one of my favorite Beatle tracks. I love this album cover and the way they're dressed here on the back. The whole bright psychedelic colors. That's a great shot there of all 4 of them. Yeah, so definitely one of my favorite Beatles albums, and comes in here at number 3 on this list. Number 2, we're back with the same guys, the Beatles again. And some people would say, how can you like this more than Sgt. Pepper's? I do, though. Fool on the Hill, I Am a Walrus, Strawberry Fields Forever, and All You Need Is Love. Those are 4 of my top Beatles songs right there. This album wasn't, I think this album, correct me if I'm wrong, but this album wasn't part of the original Beatles discography. This was put out in the US only, I believe, and is the only one of the, when you look through the Beatles discography, it's the only one that's not part of the original discography. I believe that's the case. I Am a Walrus became my favorite song once I bought the Blue Album not too long, maybe 30 years ago, and it's remained that way, still is. I do like Strawberry Fields, of course, and Fool on the Hill, which I think is an underrated Beatles song. I don't know how you can be underrated if you're Beatles, but definitely here. Penny Lane, of course, another great track. Yeah, so Magical Mystery Tour by the Beatles coming in at number 2. So what beat out the 2 Beatles albums, are you thinking? Well, there's no chance this would have happened 2 years ago, because this was a band I didn't like, but this album has grown exponentially upon me to become number 1 today. The Doors' debut. There's not a bad track on this. Some of them are absolutely amazing. 20th Century Fox, Alabama Song with a whiskey bar. Both of those are great. Breaking On Through, classic. Light My Fire, one of the biggest Doors songs of all time. Looked at You, I like that track a lot. Take It As It Comes, and of course Backdoor Man. These are all classic songs on this album. This may be one of the greatest debut albums ever, and you wouldn't have got me to say that 2 years ago. I don't know when it happened, but I was playing this album one day and then bang, I got it. I've been listening to them for 40 years. My friend pushed them on me. People tried to talk me into them, and I said, they're garbage. I hate that keyboard sound. I don't think much of them. I always loved his vocals. I know that some people don't, but I always loved his vocals. And sometimes he does that kind of poem reading stuff that's kind of a bit irritating. But other than that, this is a fantastic album and deserves to be number 1 today, I think. Okay, so we'll just reiterate them. So we got the Doors debut album, number 1. Number 2, Magical Mystery Tour by the Beatles. Number 3, Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band by the Beatles as well. Number 4, Between the Buttons by the Rolling Stones. Number 5, the Doors' second album, Strange Days. And if you watch there's a video out, and if you watch them, and all these guys are moving around in the video. It's hilarious. It's very psychedelic. Number 6, probably going to end up near the top eventually. Are You Experienced by Jimi Hendrix. Number 7, the Rolling Stones, His Satanic Majesty's Request. Number 8, the Velvet Underground and Nice with their studio album. Number 9, Love's Forever Change. And number 10, The Animals, Winds of Change. So there you go. Those are my rankings for the 10 albums for the year of 1967 here on here on the Great Album Challenge. I hope that you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please like and subscribe. It's much appreciated. Any comments about the albums, put it below. If you have your own top 10 for that year, you can do that as well. Some fantastic stuff out there this year in rock, 1967 in rock. And we'll be back again next Sunday night with another album from Ben's Album Challenge. He's already given me the album. He gave it to me today. It's an album I'm quite familiar with, but I haven't listened to it for a long time because I haven't owned it. It went with my collection to my sister in vinyl. But I'm definitely looking forward to redoing it and rehearing it. It's been a while. I think it'll be fun. So have yourself a good day. Take care and goodbye.